Okay, we're back. Another week of the Trash Cast with your host Mathias, along with the boys.
John.
And I am Will.
Will's back. Will's basically just our third member now.
It's the title of guest is lost to me, but the title of boy has been gained. So I think that changes somewhat as to like what detachments I can be put into.
Yes, increasing your command points cost.
I think this is the more competitive build, but also the less exciting one because it's just like, oh yeah, I know that voice.
It's always good to have your opinion. You know? One day I'll have to get our commission, and we'll get you in around the campfire, the trash fire.
What would Will's character be? Huh. Good question.
That is I have no answer to that. The idea of reaching the trash can is it's such a far-flung dream.
Don't worry, we'll get you there. Everyone needs to get around the campfire or trash fire eventually. But we can talk about that later. Right now, let's jump into what little news that we got this week before we go into our rants and discussion, shall we? So,
Right.
First thing we got is some Necromunda news. We got the tied with the Water Guild. I don't know much about this, other than I assume that they're bounty hunters kind of deal.
I think my understanding of it is that this is a totally new thing. I don't think they were in the 1995 Necromunda.
Oh no, they don't look anything like they're from that era.
Oh, I mean they're certainly new models, but like I think they are a new thing altogether.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how this will play out. The one that really sticks out is the orange beast over there. I would assume like a Goliath deep sea diver. It's kind of what I get.
Yeah, the Big Daddy vibes are present, and I'm about it. It's super cool.
It looks nice. This always seems to come up in the discussion with Necromunda, as they seem to be pushing all these new models sometimes. Does this really fit into the Necromunda gang or world? And I'd say this is on the border a little bit.
I think it's pretty cool that like they control the water. It really feels it fits in with the sort of the Mad Max like post-apocalyptic wasteland thing of that like water is so precious that there of course like are these villainous technocrats who control it. Because there's like a corpse guild as well that's like in charge of like who you get to eat today.
I was actually waiting because I know everything about these guys. I was waiting for you guys if you guys were going to say something completely inaccurate and stupid, and so far none. You guys are good.
Well,
Here to hear, folks. John literally waits for Matt and Will to make a mistake.
just makes
The best kind of right is
kidding.
technically right,
I'm
according
not
to John.
joking, but I'm being silly because I've been waiting for these guys for a long time, ever since their artwork was shown. So yeah, there's the guilds in Necromunda, which is a new concept. This is not an old Necromunda. Matt is right there. It is a incredibly not incredibly, but a new concept in the Underhive where they were in the background kind of the old there was a sentence or two of there's these guilds that control the resources in the Underhive. And they have the Corpse Guild, who's in charge of disposing bodies. You got I think there's some guilds controlling industry, controlling like food, and these guys control the water. And holy crap, these are super cool. I am definitely picking these up.
It's
not
pretty
as cool
cool.
as artwork, but it's really cool.
I mean, it's I think these guys were first mentioned in Book of Peril, which is a couple years old now.
Yeah.
But it is pretty cool that even though it was some time ago that they were hinted at and that there was artwork for them, like at least they're here, coming soon. The question for me, and I John and I privately already have different opinions on this. We'll ask you, Matt, to be the tiebreaker. What material do you think these models will be made of?
Like we're talking resin plastic kind of thing?
Yeah.
Well, this is Forge World, right? So I'm trying to remember. What was my character? My character was resin. So I'm gonna assume these are resin. unless it's like an army kind of thing. But I'm gonna assume that these are gonna work like bounty hunters, so I'm gonna say resin.
Yeah, that was your take as well, John.
Yeah, I would expect these to be resin. If they're plastic, it would be amazing. But I would expect them to be definitely resin because it's like there's a few models kind of thing. Now it is like a mini squad of guys, so
I think it's going to be a pack of 3 in plastic.
that would be great. I wish it would. That'd be
The
incredible.
detailing and like the pipe work and stuff on a number of them, particularly on the Nautican or the Subnauticon and the Siphonite, really feel to me like those are plastic. It's also looks to me like an heavy metal paint job, not a Forge World paint job, which suggests that it would be
That is true.
available
That is true.
on the Games Workshop website if they went to the trouble of doing that. But that's just a guess. That's just a theory.
So on the
Necromunda
flip
theory.
side, if it was plastic, that's amazing because this is the first guild, and having the guilds in plastic would be just great for the game. On the other hand, though, like, where's my Horus Heresy?
Well, it is Forge World.
It's coming
Promises
down the
are meant to be
pipeline,
broken.
just like Old World. Don't worry.
Oh man.
But yeah, these are looking nice models. Pretty cool. I still need to get some games in for Necromunda, but look forward to see how this guild system will work. I wonder if it'll work just like bounty hunters or not.
Yeah, I haven't really read the guild system, but they're kind of like bounty hunters. You have alliances with them and stuff, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, that
Cool
was.
stuff.
I'm just a little disappointed in this news of
That it's
Necromunda.
not Redemptionists.
It wasn't the Redemptionist news that I was hoping for because I
One
think last rumor we saw was like the heavy chainsword flamethrower thing, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
when I saw there was Necromunda news, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And then we got this, and so I was a little disappointed. But the models look good, as
I feel it will
GW standard.
I'm sure they will get to it eventually. The question I think with the Redemptionists is if they will go to the degree of redesigning them like they did with the Delac gang. That was a little controversial at the time, if you recall, because like the Delac are so different from their original versions, which I think makes them look cooler and more distinct. But if the Redemptionists are just going to be crazy priests, gangster dudes with flamethrowers and chainsaws, I feel like that's probably going to be something that's representative whenever they get back to them.
I'm sure it'll just be a section of that one gang. I can't remember their name. The blue.
Oh, Cawdor.
Yeah, Cawdor. Figure they'll do like a
Could be.
sub gang of them. If anything happens. But moving on from this news, GW finally releasing their next month coin, which is gonna be the Lumineth coin.
Yes.
A little disappointed. Just a little. But because this is what the third? No. This is the second one, right? It's AOS themed?
This is the second AOS one, yeah. Well, no, the third one, because there was the Daughters of Cain one.
You count the Slanesh one.
Slanesh one, yeah.
Okay, so yeah. This is the
Yeah.
third one. So it's not much going on in the 40k realms. I mean, we did get the Death Guard one, but there's nothing coming in there.
They technically had the Ultramarine one, excuse me, for Black Library Celebration. But that was kind of hard to get, so I do wish that they had the Ultramarine one for normal purchasing.
For a moment, I thought, Matt, I thought you were gonna say, I'm a little disappointed by the coin. It's not a Redemptionist coin.
It's not a Redemptionist coin. If they was that, I might be
It's
interested.
not a flaming chainsword. This is the Redemptionist podcast. We're speculating about when Redemptionists will get miniatures. We have like a little clock in the back that says like days since Redemptionist leaks.
Yeah.
Days not talking about Redemptionists. He's just always at 0. It's because that's all we talk about.
Reset the clock.
So yeah, we got that, and we got a generic spearman as the model walk-in a month kind of thing. Good luck. You need like what, 10 of these spearmen to make a unit, or 5? I would assume 5.
I think they're a unit of 10 actually, but I have 11 of them now because when I walked into my local GW, they basically just foisted this this model into my hand. Just like, take
Ooh,
this, man.
Can I have it? Can I have it?
No, it's
Give me
mine.
$1 for it.
I was thinking of recycling it.
Oh dang.
Oh, $1. But it was free. Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because, so having once worked at a GW, I can only imagine how, I don't know how they do it, but if the way these free model of the months work is that the manager has to build them all,
Yes, that's exactly.
that's super annoying. Because like this is a pretty nice mini and also sort of a fragile mini, and like having to, because the fellow who I saw had like 30 of them in boxes, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of stuff to go build, and particularly to give it to someone like me who did not ask for it. It's quite a lot of work to keep up this promise that Warcom is making, which hey, is to their credit. You get a free mini if while stocks last, and stocks lasted.
Indeed.
They always gotta give you that little taste of plastic crack, you know, to get you keep coming back in.
Oh yeah.
Deal it out in small chunks here. But that's that news. And then for Model Monday, new Model Monday, sorry, we finally got him. Finally got Bellicor.
Oh my gosh.
No more looking at shady lighting videos. Here he is.
It's amazing because obviously this model is great, but this model is so good that it made me realize details about the original Bellicor that I never knew. I did not know that Bellicor had 4 horns, one of which was broken in half. Mostly, I don't own the Bellicor miniature myself, but like, you know, I've seen him around. But like, the fact that he has like the horns are so detailed now that you can really just see every freaking detail in this mini.
That's kind of
Mhm.
crazy. I didn't even notice that. It was
It's on the OG model too. I mean, really, much in the style of like Abaddon. They took everything that was the case with the original model and like, you know, scaled it up significantly and then just added detail. The only thing that's truly different is he's wearing more clothes this time.
yes.
Marginally more clothes.
Marginally.
I do like how there's different poses. Slightly.
With the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is super cool. It's going to be hard not to have him pointing.
Because that's the classic pose.
Yeah, it
It's
looks
the
like
cooler
the
pose.
sword goes one way, but both of them are pretty great. Actually, the silhouette from the one that has the hand down might be a little stronger. But having him point is very Bellicor.
Yes. And we got
And
the question of if it was strictly AOS or not, and going by the second image, you see the Primaris Lieutenant on the ground, keeping up with that theme
Yes.
yeah,
of just killing them.
I like also that his wings have options for putting like Space Marine helmets and various things in them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can put a Space Marine helmet in. You can put like a Mortal King that has like a little crown on. Doesn't look like there's a Stormcast helmet, but I'm sure there's a way to do it. There's also a Laurel Wreath that he has on the 40k version, which like if you pluck that off of the head of an Ultramarine, they had to do that pretty delicately without destroying his face. That tells me that Bellicor didn't do it himself, but got somebody to get it for him, which is great.
I'm sure. With his precision tools, he was able to cut it right off, no problem.
It's worth stating for the record that John was totally right about the scale of this miniature.
What?
Yeah, I'm
Bloodthirster
glad
says?
he's greater demon prince size.
He's
Or sorry,
big.
greater demon size.
He's real big. He's a little less bulky in the torso than like the Bloodthirster, but it's pretty close.
I guess it's not a generic Demon Prince kit though, which is fine. I mean, Silent King exists, Mortarion exists,
If
Yeah.
anything,
exists.
this will also make the Demon Prince miniature that we have now, like, it shows the distinction very clearly between that miniature and Be'lakor. Of like, this is the first Demon Prince, like he's special somehow,
Right.
which is cool. I think this model has a killer base. I don't know what you guys think.
Modeling wise, yes, it's killer. Gameplay wise, it's removed, so you can't be easily targeted.
Put him so he's crouching behind some cover.
Yeah, But other than that,
chest high wall.
I guarantee he's gonna have that. You can't take more than 3 wounds.
you think he's gonna have that Gazgul ability,
Yeah.
Marathi ability?
Yeah, sure. They don't get one shot. These big monsters.
Silent King, yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of sad, right? With the days of the Knights and Magnus and Mortarion, where they just get last cannon off the board, turn 1.
Yep. Thankfully, not a thing.
Yeah, I could see it. I also see this being the model of the year. So there you go. The first AOS model to win in all 3 categories.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, here's the thing though. He does not have a Blood Bowl lineman on his base, nor does he have a Man of Gondor. So he cannot win all categories.
Oh, dude, it's that Gulliver guy from
Gullivar from who's no longer available. Middle Earth is funny because like they did an article about like a month ago that was like great and exciting heroes and villains for Middle Earth, and like 5 of the ones they listed haven't been on the web store for like 7 months. And not even just like sold out. Like, we don't make this. Don't ask us. How many customer service reps were just like, I'm sorry, you can't have that anymore. You can go to eBay.
Oh man.
I still think it's gonna win, just because
It's a
you're
pretty
gonna be able to
amazing
do a lot with this model.
Also, just like what a great model anyway. Like, even if you were someone who just likes miniatures and you bought this and you left the Space Marine and the Chaos Warrior off, or the Chaos Warrior honestly could be anywhere, but like, it is so cool. It is such a good dynamic and like impactful silhouette of just like a badass giant demon. It just works.
Just works. So what's that one Slanesh champion hero, Sigvald or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
he's pretty good too. And
He's really good too. I think with Sigvald, a little bit of the presence of that model is he has an incredible official paint job
yeah.
with the non-metallic metal.
So I think that those two have a pretty good chance. Well, definitely making it to the model of the year. That's how I see it. It is a shame that it won't be multi-kit, but I kind of saw that coming, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Which is fair.
The good part about it is it leaves design space open to make a new Demon Prince miniature kit if they want to someday.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good to have. I mean, it would have been really cool, and I'm sure you can also. There's a lot of people who will convert this into a Demon Prince of whatever particular god they like.
Right.
But it's nice that if they're only going to put one sculpt in the box, like, make it a real good one.
And I agree, and I think they did a very good job with this. And he's getting his own little campaign book that we never really mentioned.
Yeah. It looks like this one may be a ways off because I don't think the techless one has come out yet.
No, it hasn't. It's probably gonna come either this month or next month, considering Lumineth coin when they release the Lumineth stuff.
Yeah. I love the cover art though that shows him like appropriately sort of like in between like shadow and like physical form. Kind of like he's like, both
Phasing in.
in and out of reality, which is very appropriate just because, he's the master of shadows, and like the abilities that he has like are totally unique among chaos things that we can play. because he is chaos undivided or chaos like cheated during the list building step and gave himself all 4 marks.
Didn't understand what the MMO he was playing. He's just like, that's dump into everything.
Didn't read the rules.
But yes, that was fun to see that. And now, we can move on to our last Warhammer story here. Got Piety and Pain, the latest two-player box set, starring no Marines.
Whoa.
So we've already gone over this. We know what's inside the contents, but we did get some rules for people. Some interesting rules. I will only go over Lilith because that's the only person I know, and she got some buffs going her way. For one, she went from 5 attacks to 7 attacks, straight up. With the addition for any 6s, she rolls to get an additional attack. So she will be able to just go through basic infantry, no problem. They also gave her +1 strength on her weapon at the cost of an AP, which is fine, because really, who wants to get stabbed by a strength 3 elf?
Yeah, 3 to 4 isn't
With-
that, or AP -4 to -3 isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah. So now that should be strength 4 will be great. And then she got some command phase abilities, which are new for us. So being able to she gets option of 2 each command phase. Being able to run away and then or run away or advance and then be able to charge in that same turn, or she can select to attack again, which would be 14 attacks, not including any 6s that she rolls. That's crazy.
That's a lot of attacks.
It's cool to have some flexibility in there. I love abilities like this, particularly when they offer you multiple choices that you would actually want to select.
Right. Perfect for any situation too. You know? Run out of combat that you're need help with, shoot them down, and then be able to just charge back in, clean up hopefully. Or you can just attacking a bunch of guardsmen, potentially wipe out a squad of guardsmen or orcs with the double attacks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And now that she also has higher strength, so she can punch a little better against such targets.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it to switch up in AP. Because I mean, a Marine is still turning into a 6 up save against her. Like it's not terrible.
Yeah, no, it's a good buff for her. I don't remember what cult she's part of, but we're gonna have to see what happens with the cults, if much of that's gonna change or not, to see what's gonna happen. And she's also only like 90 points, so she's very cheap to take as well. But probably gonna be a good fit. And I don't know, do we want to speculate on the price on this?
160. Also, I want to talk about the Sisters of Battle character.
Sure, go for it.
It's literally a Primaris Lieutenant. It's reroll wound rolls of 1. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we speculated back when we first saw this.
Yeah, but we were being we were memeing and like hoping that it was not actually that, and of course it's actually that.
Yeah,
I'm just like cracking up that it was like I read this morning. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Primaris Lieutenant.
yeah, but
Like I thought we were just kidding about like I know I thought we were just like being funny with like, oh, we're all these guys are getting new lieutenant characters, and this one is functionally is the same.
I mean, that whole release was pretty much here's a bunch of lieutenants for everyone. I hope
true.
you guys like it.
That's true.
Reroll of 1 is an ability that kind of doesn't take much effort on the part of a designer to like come up with and have it be theoretically useful.
Right.
It's not very innovative for sure.
Yeah.
But it might not be bad.
Oh no, having the ability to reroll anything, even if it's just 1, is always very powerful.
Yeah, rerolls been war games.
Here's the thing though, bro. Why do we never see an abilities that lets you reroll 2s? Just 2s.
Just twos. Well, that's a very good question. I think back in 8th edition, you had the ability to do that, depending on your buffs and stuff. But yeah, no, you're never gonna see that. That's a bit too specific.
Get on GW.
Split right out the reroll ability here. Come on, G Dubs.
Yeah, I want to start seeing reroll fives.
Rerolling fives.
I really don't. I have no desire to see any of that. Anyway, it's a cool model though, and this box is also like basically, it's all women, a baby, and a tank,
Piloted by women.
isn't it?
I said piloted by women. Tank piloted by women.
Yes, that's true.
I think there's some male witches there though. So
Yeah, the witches can be male,
Ah, that's true.
and the scourges can be male.
All comers then.
I can't believe you'd say something so controversial, Will.
I did.
You think
We-
you know
we-
someone, and then they spelt this.
You think you know someone, and then I just make a sweeping statement that's wrong. Anyway, yeah, 160 sounds about right for this box.
although with the new prices of the combat patrols, it might be 180. So I would honestly expect 180 and be happily surprised if it's 160.
I would hope for the 160. I'm leaning towards probably about 190 is what it's kind of probably be.
Okay.
I mean, I would hope it'd be no more than 190 because 200 seems a bit steep, but
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be more than that.
The tank is how much on its own?
probably
60
60 bucks. The Venom is probably 50, 55, I think.
Oh, the Venom's like 40. It's pretty cheap.
Is it cheap? Okay, good. And Lilith and the character will both be 35 most likely,
Yeah.
or 30, so 60 to 70 bucks right there. So overall, it's gonna be about 200 plus retail wise, but bundled up, I don't know. We're hoping 160 between 160 to 190 is what we're hoping for. Hopefully no more than that. But we shall see. So that's all the Warhammer news. Now John sent me a link here, which is just basically screaming, buy the base set for Star Wars Legion.
Yes.
Why did you send me this, John?
Trying to get Matt into playing Star Wars Legion. It's a great game.
Okay. So, as a new guy, is this what you're recommending me to buy? Is the 2-player set here?
The best purchase would probably be one of the core sets, depending on what faction you choose, because this game has specific movement tools, specific dice, and some there's some card elements. Now there's no deck building. There's just like stratagem cards, and they only come in the core set. So it's just a great purchase if you're gonna start playing this game.
It's also pretty easy to play more than one faction in this game because of how small the armies actually are, and like the relative you're not. It's rare to spend as much just actual human currency on an army as it would be for like a Games Workshop game, for the equivalent sort of playable size. So I mean, the best thing that could be is like, if you like both armies and one of the 2 core sets, that's ideal. If you like only one of them, it's still a pretty good value for the reasons John mentioned. But then the question would be is like, because all 4 factions are definitely playable, and there's things you can do with all of them. Unless I've spoken out of turn on that one, John. Unless you believe differently.
No, they're all playable. I would say so.
So you're saying there's no like God, what's it called? What's a army that's unplayable? Genestealer cult. You're saying there's no Genestealer cults in this game?
No, the it's interesting because obviously there's better builds if you play competitively, but there's no like this army will never win kind of thing. It's the game is designed where your list, while important, isn't the most important factor. Like the gameplay is. It's very hard to win this game just based on list building alone.
Really? So I mean, you're saying I could just bring. You saying I can bring pretty much whatever I want, and I'll still have a fair chance of winning. Obviously, according to the structure of the game, because I know you told me it's like a hero and 2 troop units and
Yeah.
XXX.
I would say as long as your list has some synergy and makes sense, yeah. Like, and by that I mean like you can't just like like pull units out of a hat and hope they're gonna go well together kind of thing. But I mean
Right.
more if you make a list that makes sense, it's probably gonna do well if you play it a lot or if you're good at it. You're not gonna get turn one stomped with it kind of thing.
How you use the units is often more important than what they are, in my experience, which is not as extensive as John's. But it's because of just the way that the game works, and because it's also alternate activations and like units can do multiple things beyond just like attacking and moving. Um, like there's a lot to what you're doing with your army as opposed to the list itself. Like you could buy into like a top tier list or something that wins big games, but like if you don't know how it functions, even more so than with 40k, I think it's difficult to succeed against someone who is more skilled than you.
Of course, like most strategy games.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah, it could be said for any strategy game that doesn't just have like a giant Tonka truck that shoots lasers that delete units on the other side. Like there's no high win button, for sure. And in fact, some of the best pieces in the game definitely take a lot of finesse to play them well.
Okay, well, when John offered, or not offered, when John tried to get me into this game, I leaning towards the Empire because they're the good guys.
They are trying to keep order in the galaxy. They also are doing so by deleting planets.
Hey, they're keeping peace among the galaxy as best they can. All right, trying to make that a utopia.
They do have dewbacks though, and the rebels don't.
No, rebels, they're just scum and they're blowing up property. It's just domestic terrorists around here.
That's true. And here's the other thing, dude. The rebels used to be separatists, and that was part of the prequel trilogy. And the prequel trilogy also has miniatures.
Oh, there you go. So, if I was to just start, so obviously, John's saying I need to get this Star Wars 2-player set, just for mainly the other material in it, other than the models. But what else would you recommend? Let's go with like a 2,000 point equivalent.
Okay, so if you're playing Empire, right? Let's say get the core set. I would probably recommend getting another commander because in this game, your HQ, your warlord, isn't just like a warlord like in Warhammer. Your warlord is kind of more like War Machine. You played War Machine, Matt, so it kind of defines your list with the abilities it brings and all that. Like your stratagems. So the stratagems in this game are called kind of the equivalent. They're called command cards, and those depend on your commander. So like Darth Vader will have different command cards compared to like General Veers, which is different from like the Emperor,
Mm-hmm.
And just by switching those out, your army functions very differently. For example, using the examples I use, like if you bring General Veers, your army would be more shooty, and he's a very support character that buffs his units. While Darth Vader is very, if you bring him, your list and strategy probably revolves around him. And so just by swapping your commander out, you could really drastically change how your army plays. So if you get the core set, what I would recommend is getting another troop choice. Now for Empire, shore troopers are pretty good because you get the dudes and the mortar, which is you get 2 units in one box, which is pretty awesome.
Did you say snow troopers? Is that what you said?
Shore troopers.
Snow troopers also exist though.
Snow troopers also exist. That is correct.
Well, yeah, those are the ones I'm looking at.
Oh,
I
those are
mean,
pretty cool.
They're pretty cool. And like the models are also, it's the classic Star Wars design, which is definitely at least 30% of the fun. There's a lot of other fun to be had that's mechanical and like playing the game, but like it's also if you want to, just collect the things that you think look cool. If you spend a little bit of time thinking about what you want to do, you can make a list that has snow troopers in it. Snow troopers, that may not always necessarily be fighting in the snow, which is is a little funny. You could have snow troopers on the beach, but I think to go sort of what John's saying, like the commander is definitely a big part of it, and picking up another commander, kind of no matter which commander it is. Like the commander miniatures are so inexpensive that you sort of, if you roll a 1 on your choice of commander and you just happen to find the one other commander in the faction that you don't like playing, like you're not out too much. But there's also, I think, merit to playing the core set and the core commander a couple times. I don't know. How do you feel about that, John?
I actually think it's better to pick up a different commander without a lightsaber because it helps you learn the game as a whole more. Now I totally understand that they put in to talk about the core sets. If Empire has Darth Vader, Luke is for the Rebels, and if you get the Clone Wars core set, you got Obi-Wan versus General Grievous. Now those are great, and I think those are very iconic and kind of help people draw people into this is a Star Wars game, right? But if you're interested in playing the game and learning the game, I would actually recommend getting another commander without a lightsaber, just so because going back to Darth Vader earlier, how he affects your army. Most lightsaber users are like that in this game, which makes sense. In the movies, they're kind of powerful, and bringing them kind of centers your list around them, especially when you're learning the game, you're playing low points games. So I would actually recommend picking up, again, like a non-lightsaber wielding commander so you could learn your units and as a whole, like your army as a whole and your game as a whole. Because if you play a small point game with 2 lightsaber users, essentially what happens is whoever beats the other lightsaber user wins the game. Like
Yeah,
90%
you gotta play the duel of fates,
Yeah, which is a card. Lightsaber characters are definitely. It takes some learning to get good with them.
Yeah,
and they can end catastrophically badly if you don't get good.
Indeed. But again, so that's why if you're learning the game, I recommend getting like a regular commander. Regular being, not force user commander, because one, they cost less points, so you could take more units and be exposed to more, and two, then you kind of end up learning your army as a whole rather than focusing in just the lightsaber user.
I think there's merit from that angle then to go with General Veers as the first thing out of the set, just because I feel like with the things that are in the set, he synergizes with them decently well.
Yeah.
What about good old Mr. Palpatine himself?
He is even more of like a what we call in Legion, like a focus piece of like your army is built around making Palpatine do stuff. Like Palpatine at the 800 point level, which is like the sort of standard play level, he's, I believe, 210 points without upgrades or something, John. He's a lot.
Yeah, and I think he got a discount, but if you kit him out, he's definitely over 200 points. And 800 points is the 2K equivalent, and that's more than a fourth of your list is in old Palpatine.
And it's definitely super cool and powerful and worth playing.
Yes. Like he's not seen commonly in Empire lists, but like the best Legion player in the world won the last LVO with Palpatine. So like it's like because he's so good, he could win with this guy. And it's fun, like it's freaking Palpatine, right? Like he'll murder people with Force lightning kind of thing.
So he's not a lightsaber user.
No, he actually does not have his lightsaber. He has his Force lightning.
Oh, perfect.
But he still functions the same way as like a very expensive focus piece.
I feel like Krennic or Veers are both good sort of first commanders to go off your point, John, if you're playing Imperial. Because there's the Imperial officer who's basically like a very, very low level Imperial commander character whose main benefit is it gives you more points to play with. Because you have to take a commander, much like you have to take an HQ in 40k. But the Krennic, who's the bad guy from Rogue One, and General Veers, who is the guy who is the commander on Hoth and says a lot of mean things while scowling in a funny gray helmet. Is definitely like a solid choice.
Yeah.
Vader is really cool too, though. I mean, to play a little bit of devil's advocate, John, like it's Darth Vader in the box.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you want to play Darth Vader, you should totally play Darth Vader. I'm just saying if you want to learn the game, it's better to learn the game with a non-Force user.
A non-Force user. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So actually, they Fantasy Flight, the guys who made the game, released a skirmish mode, which is like the equivalent of 1,000-point game of 40K, and they have specific missions for that. So I actually recommend starting with that out, and you could play 1,000-point game, sorry, a 500-point game, a skirmish game with just the core set. I still recommend picking up the core set, like Veers or Krennic, and another unit, maybe like Royal Guard or Death Troopers or Imperial Special Force. I know, Matt, you were eyeing some Royal Guard when you were talking to me about it. That's a good pick if you want to for like a few first purchases.
You can't go wrong with red.
Can't go wrong with red. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get into this game. I think the only thing stops me from just buying it is I kind of want to demo it out first,
Oh,
Make sure that I want to get into the investment. I already got a huge backlog of Warhammer that I've, in my closet of shame.
Right.
The good news is somebody who is the demo master who has many Legion models already ready to go.
Yes.
Do. So, one day we'll have to schedule a meeting and we'll just get a quick game in, right? This doesn't take that long, right?
Oh, not at all. I can probably teach you the game in like 2 hours maximum.
Yeah, at skirmish level, which again, like is totally a legitimate and enjoyable way to play the game. Like by no means does it not being 800 points mean that it is, for toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're still using the same units. You might be using them in different ways because like your list is not as big. So there's like probably less. There's definitely less models in general, less activations, less units that are in your force. But you're still, it can still help you learn to sort of sharpen your skills for unit control when you get to the higher points play.
I see. I also see that there's vehicles in this game. How's that balanced out?
So vehicles are actually, for the longest time, bad.
Really?
The big thing, because vehicles, while one are tough, like they could only be damaged with what's called critical hit. So when you roll a dice, these special dice, there's hits and there's critical hits, and usually there's only like one critical hit symbol on a D8, so it's really hard to get that. And you can only hurt vehicles with critical hits. Now there's weapons like missile, like anti-tank weapons that let you convert hits to critical hits. So the anti-vehicle. So they are tough and they spend a lot of firepower, but the game is incredibly objective heavy. And before they released the first big mission pack or mission expansion for this game, like most missions, you could only score with infantry. I actually lost a pivotal game in a tournament because I forgot that this mission is infantry scoring only, so my speeders could not score. And that's why vehicles aren't a no-brainer like in lots of other war games. They you need to make sure that you understand that if you take a vehicle, that's one less essentially objective scoring unit you're taking, while everyone else could score.
See, so it's not like 40K where I plant my rhino on the back objective and then it just scores it for me, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Except on certain missions, I should say.
Yeah, on most missions.
Also, some of the big vehicles I think tend to be like pieces that would be a focal part of your army when like you're making the list. Like the droids have like a big tank, and then there's also the walker whose the name escapes me at the moment. ATST, the ATST for Empire. Like I'm pretty sure there's ways to play that thing and do it well, but it's also a big chunk of your list.
Yeah, like you could definitely make vehicles work, but you have to tailor your list and your strategy around the inclusion of those vehicles. Again, unlike in 40k where you can just drop, like I could just pick up, a plague burst crawler and it's gonna do stuff really well, or I could just pick up a Redemptor Dreadnought and it's gonna do stuff really well without me really considering much.
All right.
Units are like regular Joes are the way to go in this game. Your infantry. There are a lot of them.
I'm looking at it. It's quite a lot to go through.
Indeed.
But yeah, that's been thinking about getting into it ever since John offered me, which is why we're kind of just going over it since I'm the newbie in this department. I don't understand it very well. But so let's equivalent it to a 2,000 point game. How many points is that in Star Wars League?
So it's gonna be 800 points. So that's a minimum of 1 HQ, and 3 troops, and you can just take anything else. So maybe me and Will, we could go over our 800 point list. So my main 800 point list right now, is I'm playing Rebels. So what that looks like is I have. This is my Mandalorian list because I have fun with that. So it's I have a generic Rebel officer as my HQ. I have Sabine Wren from the Rebels cartoon show as an operative, so like an elite choice. I have 4 squads of Rebel troopers with a heavy weapon upgrade, so it's 4 Rebel trooper squads. I have 2 units of Mandalorians, and I have a sniper squad, and I have R2D2. So that's 800 points.
So what's RTD2? Like, what is he
So
counted
R2D2
as?
is-
R2D2 is amazing.
It's OP. Actually, it used to be OP, but now he is only really good.
R2D2's ability is one of the fluffiest things in the game. So
Yeah, you
in all the movies, right, that R2D2 is in, R2D2 is a key character because he is the MacGuffin. He is the plot device that is also a character. R2D2, what he does is if R2D2 should manage to waddle his way across the battlefield into your opponent's deployment zone, when the game ends,
if he's alive.
if he's alive, you get an extra victory point, which in a game where it's rare to have many victory points is a huge deal. He's one of the 2 units in the game that scores a victory point based on one of his abilities, regardless of what mission you're playing. It's
well, now
amazing.
he's one of 4 units that could do that.
Who else has bounty?
Bosk Boba.
Oh yeah, well his ability is one of the 2 abilities that lets you do it.
Yes.
Because there's 3 bounty hunter models as well.
Yeah, and there's Padme can get secret mission as well.
Yeah, but yes, R2D2 can go on a secret mission and then park in your enemy's base, and then they can lose everything because R2D2 is alive.
And he's really cheap. Let's just to like diverge a bit. Yeah, this game, the scoring I really like. It's like in 40k, which again I like 40k, but in that game, when you end a game, it's usually like, okay, I win 60-30, or I win like 17-20, something like you usually like score really high and then you just kind of snowball. But that's how that game is, that's fair, right? When Legion, like the missions are designed where it's usually like you have an objective near you, the objective near your enemy, and like a middle objective, or like you have 2 objectives in your deployment zone and 2 in the enemy, and you got to repair yours and you got to sabotage his. So it's very neck and neck. It's like if you both do nothing, it's going to be a tie. So stuff like R2 or like Boba Fett, where you could get an extra victory point. So Boba Fett, so bounty, like Will was mentioning, if Boba Fett can target an enemy hero, and if he kills that, you get a victory point. And that could swing the game from, again, like a tie to a win, or like from a loss to a tie. So stuff like that is pretty powerful, but hard to use. Like our R2 is, you got to survive, right? You have this 4 health model, trying to get to the enemy deployment zone, and he has some defensive abilities. But if he gets blasted, it's kind of it sucks for him, right?
It's hard to bank everything in Legion on like a single model getting its job done well. Like it's a
Yeah.
lot of like how your army works together, because even the most powerful units can only destroy so many other things within their turn. The game, I would argue, is a little less lethal.
I would say so. It's very rare to to really cripple someone turn 2.
Yeah, it can stay. The game can sort of be up in the air for longer because of the way that the objectives work.
Yeah.
Does
So
it
going back,
work?
that's my list. So it's four troops, 2 elite units, 2 elite characters, my HQ. Sorry, 3 elite units. There's a sniper team. So it's not a lot. That's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 10 units, 3 of which are characters. And you know the trooper squads have 5 models each. So I have 20 squads for my troops. Or sorry, 20 models for my troops, and that's all of them. What about you, Bill? Well, what's your 800-point list you're running right now?
So the one that I've been trying to learn, and by learn I mean like I'm not particularly proficient with it yet. Is basically the tactical droid, which if you've ever seen the Clone Wars TV show, is the little like duck-billed droid who always like calculates the odds of the good guys killing him and always gets it wrong because he dies. Uh, the tactical droid is my commander because in Separatists, which is the battle droid army, um, there's a lot of value in having a very cheap, low pointed hero. So basically, I take him so that I can take a bunch more battle droids and other random, droid snipers and super battle droids, droidicas, things like that. But the list, as of recently, has Darth Maul in it, and Darth Maul is like a super precision piece. I've played him twice and played him pretty badly both times, but he's very fun because he can do so many different weird things. Um, there's a lot of creativity you can get into with war gear in this game. Like picking, if you're a force user, you can pick your force powers, and there's a bunch of them to choose from. You can also pick like special training and like kind of like instead of just items, like extra abilities that you can sort of pay points for. So it's been very fun, even to lose badly by trying to learn how to play Darth Maul.
What's the rest of your list?
Yeah. So the rest of the list is, I got 2 squads of battle droids with like a little heavy blaster battle droid buddy, and then I have 2 squads of super battle droids, which are amazing, and they have a basically a mini tactical droid that's like in their unit that prevents them from. So droids have a thing called AI, where if they're not directly being controlled by your commander during the phases, like basically during if the HQ is not giving them orders, like they're gonna be forced to do things you may not want them to do. So by giving them a little tactical droid babysitter, they don't fall into idiot mode.
So it's kind of like the old animosity.
It's a bit like that. To me, it's more like Synapse for Tyranids.
That too.
It's not as crushing as losing Synapse, but like they're forced to choose to do something that you may not want them to do. Like regular battle droids have AI attack, where if they don't have an order, they got to attack a target that they can see, which is disadvantageous if you wanted them to like aim or move or do something else, or like capture the objective, you idiots. And then I also have 3 droid commando sniper teams that are useful for just sitting around the board and sniping out targets and moving and grabbing objectives, things like that. And so my list actually has quite a lot of models as far as Legion goes, but it's still probably 40 miniatures, something like that.
Well, I believe last time we were on the podcast, it did mention that droids is more of like a horde army.
They can be. That's sort of one of the cool things, though, is that like I feel within all of the 4 factions of Legion, you can play them all pretty differently. Like it's not like for droids, like you can definitely play them and play them well without taking a host of battle droids of just the baby Roger clankers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could run like a double tank list with droids. You could run like the classic Dooku and Grievous. So I mean, you have like a bunch of cheap battle droids to fill out your points and hold objectives, and you have Count Dooku and General Grievous doing most of the work. So there's stuff like that. That's just for one army.
Yeah.
That's cool. So that's a lot. How long do you think? Well, give me a general of the game. Like how many turns? How long do you think it usually lasts, and all that?
So how the game works is it's alternate activations.
Oh, so like bolt action.
Exactly. It actually varies. Have you played bolt action? Like if I talk in bolt action terms, will you know what I'm saying? Kinda.
I've watched my friend roommate play a lot, so I understand a little bit of it.
Okay, so it's kind of like bolt action where you go back and forth. Now, what's interesting about Legion is that it's random. It's kind of like bolt action where you randomly activate units, so you don't know which units you're activating. Ish, and by ish I mean in bolt action, you and your opponent put tokens in a bag, and then you draw, and whoever faction it is, you activate, right? Well, in Legion, you have your pool of activations, and they're divided by um, force organization types. So you have your troops, elites, HQs in a bag. So you have a token for each, and then when you draw, you activate. So when it's your turn, you draw a unit from your bag, and if it's a troops, you activate a troop. If it's an HQ, you activate your HQ. This can get really annoying if you you want to keep Luke safe for now, but you draw him. Well, you got to act with him, and then he's gonna get shot because you have to activate with him. Now that's mitigated by what's called the command phase in Legion. So a big part in Legion is called the command phase. So at the beginning of your turn, you have a hand of cards. So these are your stratagems. So these stratagems give you abilities. These stratagems also are so there's three parts of these what's called command cards. So there's the ability, like your stratagem. There's the unit order count. So when you play this card, you can give orders to units. And if a unit gets an order, then you could choose to activate that unit. So if you want more predictability in your activation, you can give an order to, let's say, Luke Skywalker or your Rebel Troopers or your ATST. So you could control when the unit activates. So you're not in a position where you activate it enough time where you don't want to activate it yet because it's too early in the turn, or like you want to wait till your opponent does something, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's the bid or the pip. So in Legion, the more powerful command cards, or usually more command intensive command cards, are slow. So let's say I play a command card that lets me order 3 units, and Will plays a command card that lets him order just 1 unit. Now, typically, the command card lets him order 1 unit. We'll let him start the turn first before I do. So let's say it's a crucial turn where Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker are fighting, and whoever gets the first attack will probably kill the other. You'd want to play a command card that lets you go first, right?
Right.
So what's up?
I said right.
Yeah. So that's essentially a big part of Legion is the command card system, and those command cards are dependent on your commander. So Darth Vader has specific command cards that let him do specific things. Like there's one where he could choke a friendly squad member, and because of that, they get to do a free action. So they can move an extra. They get an extra move action, for example. Luke Skywalker has one where he gets to attack twice. Darth Maul has one where the enemy can't spend defensive tokens. Palpatine has a really funny one where if you play this command card, when you activate Palpatine for that turn, he can suffer a wound to immediately attack, and you can do this as much as you can, as long as you don't. You can actually kill yourself doing this. So they get really crazy abilities, and so that's a big part of the game is those cards. Now it's not the only part. There's also like the army, right? So the start of the turn, you play your command cards, and then you just alternate. So your units can do 2 actions. They can move, attack. They can dodge. They could aim. They could turn on, objectives. They could go into Overwatch, stuff like that.
Okay. Quick question here.
Yeah.
Since we're referring to bolt action terms, now is this random alternation, or is it like I go then you go? kind of deal.
It's I go, you go in that sense where I activate a unit and then you activate a unit and then I activate a unit. So there's
Okay.
no like double turn. Now there are some cards, like I think Princess Leia has a card that lets her do a double turn or 2 activations instead of as before you get to go, for example. But like 99% of the time, it's I go, you go, I go, you go. We each alternate activating 1 unit,
Okay.
which is it's more predictable than bolt action, because bolt action is just like you draw from the same bag, so you could get 3 activations in a row, for example.
Mm.
And that's pretty much the game. Like it's not like 40k where there's like a move phase, shoot phase, assault phase. It's just like you play your command card, you do your turn, you activate your units, kind of thing.
A little, as some players would put it, a quote unquote fair system.
It's definitely more fair because again, alternate activations, because of that. Like in the typical I go you go, when you activate your whole army and then you activate your whole army, it's very easy to like get blown off the turn if you miss position. Well, in Legion, like you could activate a unit, you could kill a unit, but then your enemy gets to do something in response immediately. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
online is not likely to delete you without your ability to respond.
Right. Interesting. Okay. And you think this takes about like, well, according to the website, 1 to 2 hours to play? Sounds accurate.
For skirmish,
1 hour is pretty fast.
yeah. For skirmish,
Well, I guess this is just the starter set, so
the full game will take probably 3 hours. Now, even it's something I tell people about this game where like, Will just kind of starting out, like our friend Tom or Fig and Donnie, they're kind of starting out and they're saying like, oh, am I taking too long because I'm learning? It's like, yes, that's true, but if you know the game more, because of in my opinion, the game is so tactical. If you're experienced and know your army and know the rules, then you're able to make more decisions. So the game is a big part of it is still deciding of like, what should I do, blah blah blah, like how do I win, kind of thing. So the game can take a while, or you can just play like John and just freaking like make random decisions that I take 30 seconds to think about and damn the consequences, which has won or lost me some games.
just
I
move
think like
forward.
with any game that if you play it more and you learn what you can do better and you understand more of like your instincts are developed for the game, you can play it faster.
Yeah.
But I think if you're starting out, I would expect probably 3 hours. Probably not that different from the length of a 40k game.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my experience.
So it should feel right at home then.
Absolutely. Like if you play 40k or any other big war game, this will feel right. You will feel right at home. It will not feel like less, or what's what people derogatorily say like dumbed down. Like it's definitely like it's very very tactical, very strategic.
I am
It's a
surprised though at that time, considering it is, from what I understand, just less models than like a 40k game.
right. It's interesting, right? Yeah, it is less models, but I think go ahead. I think you could put it better because I was actually
It's less models that can do more. Necromunda is also a game that takes significantly longer to play than Kill Team because there's more that can happen. Your activations arguably are more meaningful than activating like a unit of Cadian Guardsmen. Like you can do more with models, and like there's more like inter-unit complexity that can happen. So the decision making, also a big part of it is you have more decisions to make in the course of the game than you do before the game begins. As I think a big skill for Warhammer 40,000 is what happens before you start putting models on the table, of like what's your list, like what are you taking, like what are your energies, what's your war gear, what's the mission, what are your secondaries, things like that. For Legion, a huge portion of it is what is actually happening when you're playing your command cards. What are you choosing to activate? Where are you? When are you activating models? I think that's one of the reasons that even though there's less miniatures, it can take about the same amount of time.
I see.
Yeah, as an example, let's say you're playing 40k. Let's say you have a unit of intercessors, and those intercessors need to hold an objective. So when it's your turn, you're going to activate those intercessors. You're probably going to move them up to the objective, and they're going to shoot something. Like 90% of the time. Maybe you'll move them out of sight, right? Maybe you'll position them in a way where they won't get charged or they won't get shot as easily in cover. But generally, you're going to move them up, and they're probably going to shoot. In Legion, if you have unit stormtroopers, they need to cap an objective, so you're obviously going to move them. But because of how the action system works, you can either shoot with them, and kill some rebel scum. You could dodge with them, which they get a defensive bonus, but they forgo shooting, so they don't kill people, but they're harder to kill. You could double move them, so you could really position them in a way where they're out of sight or in heavy cover, but you're sacrificing against shooting or even dodging. And maybe even want to put them in Overwatch, where if someone gets close by, you get to shoot or move. Right? You do a reaction. So stuff like that, where you're activating this one unit, but there's a lot of things you can think of. And there's definitely times where I've done something like, let's say I shot with the unit, where in reality I should have just like dodged with them or double moved them into out of sight. Stuff like that. It's like we'll put it well, like the deciding what to do with your units, especially because again, like it's not like an I go you go where you do your army and then they do their army and then you do it's you activate a unit and then
Right.
Will activate the unit, so now I have to react to what Will just did, and my turn, my the plan I had being the turn may have to be changed. Like, well, I got to react to what he's doing now, for example.
Right.
Maybe he played a command card that it's like, oh crap, he's playing Maul and he played an ability where Maul can't be shot, but he can't fight.
Weirdly, even though it's a tactical game, you don't do a whole ton of planning ahead as you do planning on your feet. If you are like planning a big play, it's usually something you do at the very beginning of the turn that you try to make happen. Like if you're trying to get the initiative by playing a command card that is going to make it more likely that you will get to choose what activates first. But it's hard to set out a plan for the whole turn because it's just the unpredictability of you don't know what's going to happen. You can have an idea of what's going to happen, but there's also just an inherent fun in not knowing for sure and then trying to kind of think on your feet as it occurs.
I see. So it's all my commander's fault.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes, and it's definitely because your army sucks. If you are to lose, that must be the only reason.
True.
There was never any chance of victory.
Well, I think I have
But-
one more question about the game.
Yeah.
How terrain heavy and terrain reliant is the game?
Oh gosh.
You don't need a ton of high vertical multiple floor terrain.
You typically need just line of sight blockers and cover, like barricade.
But are we
One
looking
thing
at
I
like
should mention for people playing 40k is the ranges in this game are incredibly short. Like most guns have range. Because this game uses range rulers.
6 inches,
Yeah,
or like 12 inches is about right.
yeah. So like the typical gun is range 3, which is 18 inches. Pistols are 12 with range 2, and like really long, like the longest range gun except for like commander sniper rifle, which are infinite range, are range 5, which is 30 inches, and that's only like sniper rifles. Very few guns have range 5. Most guns are range 3, so most guns have a range of 18 inches, which is not a lot. And definitely leads to like less getting blown up immediately.
yeah. Well, then I guess that raises one more question. How big of a table do you usually play on?
So skirmish games are on a 3x3, while the main games are on a 6x3, so smaller than Warhammer.
No, but
Not my much, but yes.
still pretty big. 6x3, huh?
Yeah, 6x3.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think I just need to get a game in. I probably would be sold to play it. It's just I experience it a little bit.
Right.
Get my
That-
hands on it.
That's totally the right way to go.
Can't be like some people and just throw my money at it and hope for the best. But I think we're done with that. We can start wrapping up here. But so let's go to the hobby rant section of the podcast. And I'll start off this time.
Alrighty.
So let's see, what did I do? I did some changes to the hobby, and we did some Warcry instead of some 40k for once.
Ooh.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it was I ran the Daughters of Cain army because my friend was running the balloon dwarves. So just not. Let's just have a casual best of 5 game there. And yeah, I really underestimated those balloon dwarves.
Yes, they do have guns.
Yeah, they got grenade launchers, and that was the most scariest thing to see a grenade launcher just do 8 damage right off the bat.
That is pretty awesome for them. Less awesome for the particular daughter of Cain that was reduced to a pink mist.
Yeah, it was bad. I ran all snakes, so just went with that theme. That was fun.
Yeah.
It was an enjoyable game. I enjoy Warcry. I still think it's best to play with the war bands, but it was fun to just test out those new painted snakes that I got.
It's such a solid game for just like pick up and play of like it's not especially complicated. Like all of the cards and stuff make it pretty seamless, and you don't have to do much looking at the rule book to figure out what's going on.
All right,
It's very relaxing.
it's very simple. It's what I like. Just nice, quick pickup games and just get it out and done. So that was my hobbying. I didn't really get to do much else because of work, but I did also update the trash cast image. So I'm using that right now.
Hey, that's pretty important.
Yeah, nice image. I like it. It was a good job. I'll send it to you guys in a moment. But I got that commission and got that up and running. And probably this week be working on a Dark Eldar video, just talking about the current and what I hope for the release. But we'll see how that goes. It's always complicated to find the time to do stuff like that.
That sounds like a great idea. That'll be a cool video to see. Particularly because you are like the Dark Eldar person. You have a spiky heart on the inside, I'm sure.
Yes, I'll be the Dark Eldar person of our group. I won't
Yes.
say I won't have control, master authority over what I say, but I have a pretty good grasp on it.
I'll go next because I think mine is the most boring hobby-wise. I'm still painting droids, as I said before, because I'm trying to finish my droid army before Cursed City comes out.
Do we have a release date on that?
We don't.
We don't. I think we got plenty of time. Like I said, or like we've stated before,
Definitely not this month.
Brexit and COVID had probably set it back till April, if anything.
I'm operating under the assumption that it is coming sooner than I think, which is trying to motivate me to finish my droids.
Yeah, I would assume April is when it's gonna come out.
What about you, John? What are you working on?
I on the tail end of my Legion, so I finished my Rebel lists. I have one more squad of Mandalorians coming in, and once I paint that, I would say I'm pretty done with Legion for now until some really new stuff comes out. Because I have enough for all armies where I can play some good games with them. So now I'm working on. I was just painting some objective markers for Legion, and I think my next project is gonna be my Warcry warband, which is Warriors of Chaos. So I got my Dark Chasm ride with my Blade Guard and Eradicators, but not really feeling 40k at the moment. So they're just gonna be in their boxes until I get the Dark Angels hype again, which hopefully will be not too long in the future. And I'm gonna be working on my Black Crusade character, so doing Black Crusade with some friends. Black Crusade being the Chaos Space Marine RPG.
Chaos Space Marine RPG?
Yes.
It was created by Fantasy Flight Games when they were still working with Games Workshop.
Okay. Not too familiar with that one. But you're getting your Chaos Undivided Warriors, huh?
Oh
Just
yeah.
in time for Be'lakor?
It's a great model. I really don't want it, but I also want it. So
I'm telling
freaking
you,
Be'lakor.
model of the year, winning all categories.
All of the year. What would top it, man? Like
What would
Angron?
top it?
I mean, as far as like big demony guys go, yeah, Angron or Fulgrim could give him a run for his money, but like he would still be in the debate. It's such a solid miniature, even if you don't know what Warhammer is. It's so cool.
It's so cool.
It's a very easy to understand idea executed well. It's like a good turkey sandwich. Like turkey sandwiches are not, it doesn't take galaxy brain to understand why people would eat them, but like when you have a good one, oh yeah.
Great.
Be'lakor, turkey sandwich of the year.
All categories, even
And
the ones he's not in. But
Speaking of games, I played a bunch of Legion games last week. I played both. Will wanted 2 games in a row to practice his Darth Maul list, and those were some fun games.
Will won those games?
Will died on both of those games, but it was fun
Oh.
and instructive.
Which is the important bit.
No,
Both
just-
of those are important, John. Careful. Those are both important things. We're not learning to like hot wire a spaceship. Like this is not an important skill. Like it's fun skill to get better at.
Indeed.
How about that?
always get that brain growing, stretching, noggin jogging.
Noggin jogging is an amazing phrase.
Great term.
One of my favorites. But sounds good. I think we'll call it there for this week's podcast. It was fun to have you back again, Will.
Yeah,
And
As
instructive.
always.
Which is the important part.
indeed.
Thank you, fellas.
I learned some stuff.
Yeah, it was just good to get me sold on Star Wars Legion. Another game to get into. Add to my
Yeah.
backlog of Warhammer models that I need to still build and paint.
It's all good. You only have the rest of your life.
This stuff will be buried with me, like the ancient Egyptians. It'll all be taken with me to the afterlife, and I'll still be working on it up there.
Bury me with my Tomb Kings. Said Matt.
That's me. But let's call it there. Thanks for everyone listening, watching, and we'll catch everyone until next time.
Indeed. Until next time.
Later, everyone.